Imagine being one of the most recognisable faces in pop culture, part of one of the world's biggest girl groups, and then stepping out on your own, with the whole world watching. This was the reality for Victoria Beckham, known to millions as Posh Spice. When she announced her debut solo album, the anticipation was palpable. Fans, critics and the media all wondered, could she succeed on her own, away from the Spice Girls' spotlight? In this video, we dive into the build-up to her self-titled debut album, the fashion icon's shift into a solo career, and the expectations that came with being the stylish yet reserved member of the Spice Girls. If you enjoy hearing stories about eras gone by, hit the subscribe button to be notified when I next upload. Now, back to the video. Between Spice World and Forever, the Spice Girls would go on a brief hiatus with the ambition to release solo projects. Whilst many fans were keen to hear from some of the other members of the group, expectations for anything from Victoria were quite low. While other members like Mel B and Jerry Halliwell were known for their bold, outspoken personalities, Victoria was more reserved and composed. This led to a perception of her as the quiet Spice Girl. Musically, Victoria was often seen as having a less prominent vocal role compared to the likes of Mel C or even Emma Bunton. Her contributions were often seen in harmonies and background vocals, which sometimes led to the perception that she was more of a visual rather than a vocal contributor to the group's success. There were also persistent rumours during the Spice Girls' peak years that Victoria's microphone was sometimes turned off during live performances. These rumours stemmed from the perception that her vocal contributions were less prominent compared to her bandmates, particularly in live shows where she often sang harmonies or background vocals rather than taking the lead. However, there has never been any official confirmation of this, and it's widely considered to be more of a tabloid-fueled rumour than a confirmed fact. Victoria herself has addressed these rumours in interviews, often laughing them off and denying that her mic was ever turned off during performances. When Victoria announced her plans to launch a solo music career, the anticipation was a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and media buzz. The public and critics were eager to see how she would transition from being part of the world's biggest girl group to establishing herself as a solo artist. In August 2000, Victoria Beckham teamed up with True Steppers and Dane Bowers for the single Out of Your Mind. The single marked the most drastic shift for a Spice Girl in genre. Moving away from the pop sound that characterised her work with the Spice Girls, the track embraced a vibrant and energetic subgenre of electronic dance music that was gaining popularity at the time. Collaborating with UK duo True Steppers and vocalist Dane Bowers, Victoria ventured into a sound defined by its fast rhythmic beats, syncopated bass lines, and a distinctively urban edge. This genre shift allowed her to tap into the evolving music trends of the late 90s and early 2000s, reflecting a more club-oriented style compared to the pop-centric tracks of her past. The genre move showcased Victoria's willingness to experiment and adapt to contemporary musical trends, presenting her as a versatile artist. This change in direction was part of a broader trend among artists of the time who were exploring new genres and sounds to stay relevant in a rapidly evolving music industry. That same week, Victoria faced her own chart battle with Spiller and Sophie Ellis-Bextor, who also released their track Groovejet on the same day. The media frenzy reached fever pitch, and despite predictions that Out of Your Mind would top the charts, Groovejet ultimately outsold it by 20,000 copies, claiming the #1 spot on the UK singles chart.
Yeah, we were just both in the same studio. I was actually writing the new True Stepper track, and Victoria was in there doing the Spice Girl album. Basically, all we had was basically a backing track, and I grabbed Victoria and said, "Look, do you want to come and have a listen to this?"
Grabbed me by the neck.
Grabbed her, picked her up, threw her over in the studio, and said, do you want to write this track with me? And we got in there and we done it in a week, I think, pretty much.
So you were a fan, obviously, of the previous days.
I mean, I loved the song that he did beforehand. Yeah, a bit of a... I loved the last track, and I loved this style of music, and for me it was just something different. So yeah, I mean, I loved it instantly. I thought it was fantastic.
And you wrote this together?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you find that, Victoria, writing this? A different, kind of, with a different partner?
Good. I mean, I think that, Dane's got some fantastic melody ideas and some great lyric ideas, and there was just, I just wanted to put my little tiny sprinkle of, pop on there. But yeah, no, it was good.
It worked really well. I mean, I think that's the whole appeal about the track. It's got the real raw underground element to it, and then what we've put on it, which is really soulful and pop at the same time. It's well, we pop and soul, aren't we?
Yeah, we're not rock and roll, pop and soul.
Pop and soul.
It's quite a good combination there.
Yeah.
Now, when I heard it, I was quite surprised because your voice is very exposed. I mean, you're right there. It's very strong.
Different, yeah.
Very different. How did you feel about that? Did you feel exposed?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously it was nerve-wracking, the first thing I've done on my own. But I mean, it was great. I was very scared there. The first day that I met up with Dane and Andy and Johnny, I was I was scared. It was the first thing that I'd done on my own. But no, it was good fun. And I liked the song, and yeah.
Did you miss the group experience?
Definitely. But when I got the track, actually, I played it to all of them, and I was on the phone to Melanie B saying, "What do you think of this? Do you like it?" So that's a good thing about still being in a group, but you're doing your own thing. Is you get the support of all your friends around you.
Now, what were you looking for? I mean, there's a lot of talk about what you're going to do with your solo career, and I think a lot of people thought, you do big ballads and all this kind of stuff.
Ballads and a long dress.
But I think everybody thought that's what you would go for, the spotlight and all this kind of business. But what were you looking for?
Well, I mean, I've been working on my own album for the last 4 or 5 months now. And I hadn't actually planned on bringing out anything until my album was ready. So next year I was looking at releasing something. But when I heard this track, I love the song. I like the collaboration. I love the people involved. And it just appealed to me because I thought this is something different, but something that I'm really into.
The track, which was a narrative follow-up to Dane's previous single, Buggin', ultimately secured second place on the UK singles chart, outperforming Buggin', which landed in 6th place. Despite not claiming the top spot, Out of Your Mind sold an impressive 180,584 copies in its first week, making it a gold seller and surpassing the first week sales of any other Spice Girls solo venture, a record Victoria still holds. Much of this success was driven by the public's curiosity about Beckham stepping out on her own, away from the group that had made her a household name. For many record buyers, the True Steppers and Dane Bowers were secondary to the star power of Beckham. Nonetheless, the trio embraced the experience, recognising that their collaboration with Beckham was ultimately beneficial for everyone involved, regardless of public perception. Much of this success was driven by the public's curiosity about Beckham stepping out on her own, away from the group that had made her a household name. For many record buyers, the True Steppers and Dane Bowers were secondary to the star power of Beckham. Nonetheless, the trio embraced the experience, recognising that their collaboration with Beckham was ultimately beneficial for everyone involved, regardless of public perception. Despite its strengths, the song was seen as a disappointment for falling just 1 spot short of the #1 position on the charts. The media can and still compare bandmates from groups when they release solo material. By that time, 3 of Victoria's former bandmates, Mel B, Jerry and Mel C, had already achieved 1 or more chart-topping singles. In April 2001, Emma also joined their ranks with What Took You So Long, which held the #1 spot for 2 weeks. The pressure and expectations on Beckham to match her bandmates' success must have been immense. Work on Victoria Beckham's self-titled debut album began in the fall of 1999, but it wouldn't be released by Virgin Records until October 2001, nearly 2 years later. This long delay posed a significant risk as the music industry moves quickly, and an album that takes too long to hit the market can easily sound dated by the time it finally does. Part of the delay was due to Beckham's meticulous nature, as she wanted to ensure the record was perfect. However, the extended timeline also added to the pressure, with the potential for the final product to feel out of step with the rapidly evolving pop music landscape. The singer took a more active role on the Spice Girls' 3rd album following Jerry's exit, and this confidence was evident in her debut album. She handpicked a team of notable writer-producers, including Dane Bowers, Harvey Mason Jr., as well as producers Soulshock and Carlin. With the right talent behind her, Beckham set out to achieve her vision, creating a sound that was cool yet approachable, commercial yet captivating. She also focused on honing in on a genre that was close to her heart, aiming to make her mark as a solo artist. In interviews both before and after the release of her self-titled album, Victoria often expressed her diverse musical tastes, but she consistently returned to her love for rhythm and blues. Her admiration for artists like Anita Baker, Beverly Knight, Janet Jackson, and Toni Braxton was well known. This influence is evident throughout the album, where a blend of classic and contemporary soul elements are layered over a pop foundation. Tracks like the 80s inspired slow jam, That Kind of Girl, and the digitized hip-hop funk of Girlfriend showcase that Beckham could effortlessly bring a bit of bounce to her music, reflecting her deep-rooted passion for R&B. Interestingly, despite the success of Out of Your Mind, the singer chose not to pursue any further ventures into the garage genre. Nothing on the album comes close to the clubland intensity of her collaboration with True Steppers, marking a deliberate shift away from that sound. Her decision to move away from the garage genre, despite the success of Out of Your Mind, may have had a significant impact on how her debut album was received. The garage sound was popular in the UK at the time, and the success of her collaboration with True Steppers had created an expectation that her solo work would continue in a similar vein. However, by opting for a more polished pop and R&B sound on her album, Beckham may have disappointed fans who were hoping for more of the high-energy, club-ready tracks that had initially brought her solo attention. This shift in musical direction also highlighted the challenge of matching her vocal ability to the chosen style. Beckham's voice, while distinctive, was often considered more suited to softer melodic pop. By focusing on R&B and mid-tempo pop tracks, the album showcased her vocal strengths but may have struggled to fully capture the energy and dynamism that some fans expected.
Okay, so Not Such an Innocent Girl is one of my favourite tracks on the album. It's a good example of what's actually on the record. One of the last records that I actually recorded on the album, it was written by Steve Kipner, who wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera, and Andrew Frampton, who is an English writer. And I had great fun recording this record. As I said, it was one of the last songs that I recorded on the album, and it was quite funny because the whole album was finished, and then Steve actually came to me and he said, I've got this great song, you know, I think you should record it, you'd sound great on it. So I recorded it and loved it, and for me I just thought, what a fantastic starting point. It starts off by saying, first impressions can be wrong, so let me clear what's going on, which is a good opening statement for me, because a lot of people think they know me because of what's in the press and what the media say, but for the first time this isn't Posh Spice and the Spice Girls or Posh and Becks, you know, for the first time this is Victoria Beckham, this is all about me, so that's why I particularly like this song.
The debut single, Not Such an Innocent Girl, released in September 2001, was a pop song with influences of R&B, and designed to reintroduce Beckham as a solo artist with a more mature, edgier image than what fans had previously seen with the Spice Girls. The song was originally performed by US artist Willa Ford, however, was never officially released. This could be due to the fact that Willa's debut single, I Wanna Be Bad, conveys a similar message. The song's lyrics revolve around the theme of breaking free from the image of innocence and embracing a more confident and self-assured identity, reflecting Beckham's desire to distance herself from her Posh Spice persona and establish herself as a credible solo artist. The music video saw Victoria once again team up with Jake Nava, who also directed Out of Your Mind and Holler. The video featured Beckham in a dual role, portraying both a good girl and a bad girl version of herself. In one part of the video, Beckham is depicted in a more demure, classic look, dressed in softer, more traditional clothing and settings. This persona reflects her previous, more reserved Posh Spice image. In contrast, the bad girl persona is portrayed through edgy fashion, bold outfits, and provocative imagery. This persona embodies the new, more rebellious side of Beckham, symbolizing her transition to a more confident, liberated self. The video juxtaposes the good girl persona's softer, vintage-inspired outfits with the bad girl persona's contemporary, high-fashion attire. This contrast highlights the shift in Beckham's image and musical style from Spice Girl to her solo career. A Sunship remix was also released as an attempt to tap into the audience Victoria had gained from the success of Out of Your Mind. The remix, which took on a more UK garage-style rendition of the song, failed to help the song secure the top spot on the charts. The track also received mixed reviews from critics, reflecting the challenges Victoria was facing in her transition from Spice Girls member to solo artist. Critics generally appreciated the production quality of the song, which was rooted in pop with some R&B influences, blending the catchy chorus with a modern production style. However, some reviewers felt that the track didn't fully showcase Beckham's vocal range, which had been a topic for debate since Beckham's time with the Spice Girls. The song was also noted for being very generic and struggled to distinguish itself from other pop songs of the time. The song's theme of shedding an innocent image and embracing a more confident persona was seen as a bold move, with Victoria showcasing that she was stepping outside of Posh Spice, but some critics felt that the execution was lacking. The lyrics, which aimed to present Beckham as a more assertive and self-assured artist, were considered somewhat generic and immature by some reviewers. Many critics compared Beckham's solo work to her Spice Girls persona, noting that while she attempted to break free from her past image, the single struggled to define her new identity convincingly. Ultimately, the song was critiqued for not fully capitalizing on its potential and not offering a strong enough departure from Beckham's previous image. The mixed reviews echoed a broader struggle in defining her solo career separate from her Spice Girls success. Victoria would also face her second chart battle when Kylie released Can't Get You Out of My Head. The single, which was the first song from her highly anticipated album Fever, meant that Victoria was going to struggle to secure the #1 spot yet again. Victoria's single, which struggled to capture listeners' attention over Kylie's, which was at the time dominating the airwaves, ultimately secured #6 on the UK singles chart. And whilst this single placement was very respectable, it ultimately would add additional media scrutiny, with all of her bandmates having at least one solo #1 single. The single had a more modest performance outside the UK. While it did achieve some success in other European countries, it did not make a significant impact on the charts. The single's performance was somewhat reflective of the mixed reception it received from critics and fans. While Beckham's new solo identity was intriguing, the song's commercial performance highlighted the challenge of stepping out of the Spice Girls' shadow and establishing herself as a solo artist. In 2001, Victoria encountered minor controversy involving a lip ring that made national headlines and added to the scrutiny surrounding her solo career. Beckham was photographed wearing a lip ring during a public performance, and this was a striking change from her typically polished and glamorous image, which caught the attention of both the media and the public. The lip ring was seen as part of her effort to cultivate a more edgy and rebellious persona as she transitioned into her solo music career.
And then the next day, I just could not believe the backlash. I mean, it's a piece of jewellery.
Victoria's been keeping her lips firmly sealed today after appearing with a new bit of jewellery at a concert. She was wearing a lip ring, although she hasn't actually had her lip pierced. Not much consolation, though, for the parents of teenagers wanting the same look.
The lip ring sparked considerable media coverage, with tabloids and newspapers speculating about the reasons behind her decision to wear it. Some interpreted it as a deliberate move to distance herself from her Posh Spice image and align herself more with contemporary trends in pop culture that favoured a more daring, punk-inspired look. Despite the attention, the lip ring did not go over well with all of her fans or the general public. Some critics viewed it as an inauthentic attempt to reinvent herself, while others simply felt it didn't suit her. The backlash reflected the broader challenge Victoria faced in redefining her image after the Spice Girls, with every stylistic choice closely scrutinised. The irony of the intense media attention surrounding Beckham's lip ring lies in the fact that the ring wasn't even real. It was a fake, clip-on accessory. This added a layer of absurdity to the situation, as the public and media were quick to jump to conclusions about her supposed attempt to adopt a new image, something which is common in the entertainment industry, when in reality, the lip ring was merely a temporary, superficial fashion statement.
A Mind of Its Own, another really lovely song. What I like about this is It's a good pop song with a really nice message running through it. Again, it was written by Steve Kipner and Andrew Frampton, and also myself. This is one of the first songs that I wrote with Steve and Andrew. I think it's got a really, really lovely verse, you know, the way that I do a very sexy bit of speaking on the verses, and then when the chorus comes in, it's a really big chorus. So I love this song, really, really like it.
5 months later, Victoria's second single, A Mind of Its Own, was released in February 2002, described as a pop ballad that showcases a softer, more introspective side of Beckham compared to the upbeat sound of her first single. The song is characterised by its gentle melodies and reflective lyrics centred around emotional strength. The lyrics speak to the struggle of staying true to oneself and making difficult decisions, even when others might not agree. This theme resonated with Beckham's personal and professional life at the time, as she was navigating the pressures of establishing a solo career while remaining in the public eye. The music video further emphasised the song's contemplative nature. It featured Victoria in a more subdued and elegant setting, contrasting with the flashier, more stylised video for Not Such an Innocent Girl. The visual imagery was simple yet sophisticated, aligning with the song's introspective tone, and was more akin to what the public would expect from a single from Posh Spice. A Mind of Its Own entered the UK singles chart at number 6, which was a respectable position, but fell short of the top 5, reflecting the challenges Beckham was facing to maintain the momentum from her first single. The single's performance was seen as moderate, indicating that while Beckham still had a strong fan base, the transition from Spice Girl to successful solo artist was proving difficult. The single received mixed reviews from critics. Some praised Beckham for showing a different side of herself with a more emotional and mature song, while others felt that the track was too safe and didn't make a strong enough impression. Critics were divided on whether Beckham's vocal performance was compelling enough to stand out in the competitive pop landscape of the early 2000s. Other female singers were displaying strong vocal performances amid the transition within pop music, including Celine Dion, Christina Aguilera, and Pink. This called into question whether Victoria had the ability to navigate an already competitive industry as a successful solo artist. A Mind of Its Own was seen as a step in a different direction for Victoria Beckham, aiming to highlight her versatility as an artist. However, it struggled to achieve the same level of success as her debut single, reflecting the ongoing challenges she faced in carving out a distinct identity separate from the Spice Girls. Despite the respectable chart position, the single's performance indicated that Beckham's solo career was still very much a work in progress. Always Be My Baby is a mid-tempo pop R&B track containing production that is polished, featuring lush harmonies and a laid-back beat that complements Beckham's soft yet confident vocal delivery. The overall sound is contemporary for its time and similar to other UK pop acts including Billie Piper, Rosie Ribbons and Fierce. The B-side also aligned more with the R&B influences that Beckham favoured in her solo work. Feels So Good is another pop R&B track, but with a slightly more upbeat and energetic vibe compared to Always Be My Baby. Features a catchy chorus and a more pronounced rhythm, making it a bit more radio-friendly. Both B-sides fit cohesively with the sound of the VB era. They reinforce the album's focus on polished pop R&B, with an emphasis on smooth production and accessible, relatable lyrics. The B-sides do not stray far from the core themes of love, relationships and personal reflection, which are central to the album's narrative. While they may not have been standout tracks on their own, they contribute to the overall vibe of the era, supporting Beckham's effort to establish herself as a credible solo artist. It was rumoured that the third single planned was I Wish. However, despite a remix being recorded and produced which featured East 17 singer Robbie Craig, who had become known in the UK garage genre for his song Woman Trouble, plans to release the song were scrapped. The official statement was due to Victoria becoming pregnant. However, it is also likely that lower than expected chart performances for the singles played a role in this decision.
That Kind of Girl, now this, again, I say this with all of them, but this really is one of my favourite songs. Written by Steve Kipner again. I recorded this in LA. He's got a little studio in his house, and I remember when we were recording it, it was really, really raining heavily. It just brings back lots of memories, this song. The words are amazing. I mean, Steve Kipner really is one of the most amazing lyricists I have ever worked with. There's one particular line in this song that I love, which says, "Do you like watching the sun come up?" And it says, "Sipping champagne out of paper cups," which I think is really cute, because that's the kind of thing that I do with if I get champagne, if I'm lucky enough to have champagne, I'll usually drink it out of a plastic cup or something. So lovely. I mean, this song reminds me of quite an 80s style ballad, really, very soulful. Yeah, really like this one. Like That. This again was one of the last songs that I recorded on the album. I wrote this one in London with a couple of really nice guys. What I like about this song, apart from the fact it's a pop song, it's got a lot of attitude running through it, so the actual track of this album is quite tough. So I could do some great dance routines to it. It's very catchy. I think it's quite cool, one of the cooler tracks on my record. And actually lyrically it's really nice, because rather than talking about a relationship, it's actually saying, you know, I'm talking about looking at my friend's relationship. So it's sort of like a third party talking about what's happening. So I like the message in there, it's a little bit different. Great song. Girlfriend. Now this song really does have some history, because I started writing this song with Dane Bowers when we were on our way back from a road show that we'd done with the True Steppers, and we was on this train on the way back, and we started talking about songs, and I actually said how I wanted a song that was similar to Toni Braxton, Man Enough, you know, good pop song but with some really nice attitude, quite dancey, some very strong beats. So we had our train ticket and we started writing lyric ideas on the back of our train ticket. And a few months later we ended up in the studio recording it with Harvey Mason Jr., who used to be part of the Dark Child team, and Damon Thomas, who's part of the Babyface team, and they've now joined together. And yeah, myself and Dane were there too, and we wrote a fantastic song. I think this is one of the dancier tracks on the album. Fantastic middle eight. What I loved about working with Harvey is he's amazing with beats. Yeah, beats and tracks, and Damon is the lyric man behind it. So yeah, great song, good to dance to. Midnight Fantasy. Now, I recorded this in Sweden quite a long time ago, when it was absolutely freezing. It was so cold there I turned up in a ski suit. That's how cold, that's how cold it actually was. Yeah, really nice song. I wrote this one as well. It reminds me of a bit of a kind of old style Janet Jackson song, you know, it's very poppy, very up tempo, great to dance to, nice little message going on, just very, very catchy, really good pop song. IOU is a really special song for me, because I wrote this song for David. You know, it was David really that gave me the encouragement to do this record, because I was very nervous, and you know, he really helped build up my confidence. So I wrote a song for him. I'm getting all embarrassed now. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's a really nice song, lovely ballad, fantastic string section running through it. Yeah, really nice. No Tricks, No Games. Again, I wrote this one with Steve Kipner and Andrew Frampton again. It's good. It's basically saying take off the makeup, take off all of this, and you know, see me as I really am. No tricks, no games. This is just me. It's the way that it's got to be. Really nice up tempo. Again, with attitude. I Wish. Now this one really brings back memories, because it was one of my first trips to America, and I was working with Soul Shock and Carlin, and they're actually Danish but they live in LA, and all I'd heard is that they work with Whitney Houston, Toni Braxton, Brandy, and amazing singers like that. So I was really, really nervous when I went out there. And I remember I walked into the studio. It was a big, big recording studio in the middle of LA. and on the door it said Victoria Beckham, private session, keep out, and I was so nervous. And I was on my own just with Brooklyn, and my mum was there to look after Brooklyn. And I went in there, and I was really, really nervous, but I think the good thing about Soul Shock and Carlin is they really pushed me, you know, with my writing and also vocally. So I think I Wish for me is, it's quite R&B, you know, a bit of an R&B flavour behind it. But I brought my poppy lyrics and poppy melody along, and I think we got, you know, the best of when England and America meet. Bit of R&B, quite a cool track, but still poppy melodies and poppy lyrics. Great one to dance to, this is. What You Talking About? Again, Soul Shock and Carlin and myself. Really, really great, you know, sort of bit of a sort of mid-tempo. Again, quite a cool song, nice lyrics, catchy song. Again, quite cool for me, I think. Unconditional Love. I wrote this one in America with Rhett Lawrence, who also wrote Never Be the Same Again for Melanie C. I love Unconditional Love because this one's kind of written for David as well. You know, it's just a romantic ballad, some great vocals, really, really catchy chorus. Yeah, I mean, the lyrics kind of explain everything about this song. Every part of me, well, I have to say that I think on the album, Brooklyn is the star of the record with his little tiny bit that he does on this record. He was in the studio with me while I was recording most of the album, and I was singing away and he was just playing around in the background, and he was laughing and giggling and saying mummy, and we played back the track and he was actually on there accidentally, and I just thought he sounded so cute that I decided to leave him on. So yes, so I must say, a bit of a guest appearance there, but it's quite funny because when we're running around the house, we'll say, Brooklyn. But, so no, I won't. He'll say, Mummy, Brooklyn song, can we hear Brooklyn song? And he listens to it and I play because he points to the speaker and he goes all embarrassed and goes like that. But he's really proud of himself.
The album debuted at number 10 on the UK Albums Chart, which was a respectable entry but perhaps lower than expected given Beckham's high profile. The album quickly fell down the charts in the following weeks, reflecting a lack of sustained interest. 16,000 copies were sold in its first week. Despite the initial buzz, the album's overall sales were modest. As of the last reported figures, the album has sold approximately 54,000 copies in the UK, which is relatively low compared to the solo efforts of her Spice Girls bandmates. When the album released, Victoria entered her third chart battle yet again with Kylie Minogue. Despite both lead singles from the project facing a clash, Victoria and the label chose to keep the album's release on the same date that Kylie's Fever dropped. While Fever ultimately secured the top spot on the UK Albums Chart, Victoria Beckham entered the chart at number 10. Despite Beckham's star power and the public interest in her solo debut, the album was unable to match the commercial momentum of Minogue's release. The challenge of going up against an album as strong as Fever made it difficult for Victoria to gain traction. The lukewarm reception of Beckham's album, combined with the overwhelming success of Kylie's, underscored the competitive nature of the music industry, particularly for pop artists at the time. The chart battle between Victoria and Kylie serves as a memorable moment in early 2000s pop history. While Victoria's album faced tough competition and ultimately did not achieve the same level of success as Fever, it remains an important part of Beckham's career journey. Kylie's Fever went on to become one of her most successful albums, further cementing her status as a pop icon. The contrast in their fortunes during this period highlighted the unpredictable nature of the music industry and the challenges she faced transitioning from a group to a solo artist. It's interesting to consider whether the right singles were chosen to showcase the project. It could be argued that songs such as Girlfriend, Like That, Midnight Fantasy, or That Kind of Girl from the album would have served Beckham better as singles. Both have more intricate production and would still allow Victoria's vocals, which could have been described as more delicate, to shine. The lack of any UK garage present on the project, which Beckham had quickly gained popularity from her single Out of Your Mind, also likely impacted the public's interest in her solo work. In mid-2002, news broke that Victoria had parted ways with Virgin Records, a decision that marked a significant shift in her music career. The departure was apparently mutual and attributed to a combination of factors, including the underwhelming commercial performance of her solo work and the challenges in achieving a successful follow-up album. The record label's decision was influenced by the lack of significant commercial success and the changing focus of Beckham's career. But this did not mark the end of Victoria's venture into music, as shortly after she would begin working on her sophomore album. However, this would also be jarred with media sensationalism, conflicting interests with the musical direction of the project, and the label going bankrupt.